Welcome to Sakshi TV special immigration show with attorney Mr. Chand Parvathaneni, law firm of Parvathaneni and Brown. Please note that the Sakshi TV now has 4 immigration shows every week. On Tuesdays with lawyer Mr. Kaveti, on Thursdays with Chand Parvathaneni, Wednesdays with attorney Prashanti Reddy in English, and on Fridays at 6 p.m. EST with Banu Nidra. Please tune in to ask your questions. If you are an immigration attorney and would like to join our special shows, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call us at 866-725-7441. Before we begin the show, please note that the information provided on the show is not a legal advice and for general informational purposes only. Sakshi TV or its agents will not be responsible for the use of information. If you need any specific legal advice, please contact the attorney directly. Mr. Chan needs no introduction, but if you need consultation, please log on to spblawfirm.com site for contact information. Before you connect with them or when you connect with them, don't forget to mention Sakshi TV. From the beginning, spblawfirm.com site has put a wealth of free information and online tools in the hands of the immigrant community and for the benefit of US employers. The www.spblawfirm.com site provides you with the latest and cutting-edge information on US immigration laws and policies explained in terms you do not have to be a lawyer to understand. We will continue the knowledge session along with the news and updates on latest immigrations followed by Q&A. Before we get into this topic, you can call us on the numbers on the screen for the questions related to immigrations and also ask for tips. So for today's topic, we have upcoming US immigration changes and impact of drunk driving, drugs, and criminal offenses for immigrations and visas. So without any further delay, let's welcome Mr. Chand onto our show. Chand Garu, welcome back to our show. How are you?
Thank you, Shivani. Very good. And all the viewers watching Sakshi TV, welcome and thank you for joining in.
Yes. Mr. Parvathaneni, we are hearing that USCIS is substantially increasing the fees for the applications such as, H-1Bs, green card applications, etc. Can you explain about this topic a little?
Sure. So right now, most of the fees that we currently have, they are the fees since 2016. So since 2016, we have not really seen a substantial increase in the fee. And back in 2019, they did have a proposal, but there were multiple lawsuits during Trump administration, and luckily the fee increase stopped. And again, in the last 1 month, the Department of Homeland Security, they're trying to increase the fees. And they did publish the proposal. And right now, the public have 60 days to comment on it. So right now, the comment period is running. And DHS does have a proposal. And more than likely, the fees will be increased in the next couple of months. However, the comment period ends on March 6th. So until March 6th, definitely we will not see any increase. And what Homeland Security is trying to do is they're trying to fund the asylum program. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to increase the fees on employment-based petitions like the H-1s and so on, and use that additional fee to fund the asylum program. And which is probably why the fees increase is a little bit drastic. It's a little bit huge increase in terms of the percentage increase. And not only the employment-based petitions, but even the other I-140s, 485s, we are also seeing a price increase proposal for them. The only good thing is premium processing is not seeing any price increase. Premium processing is already very expensive. It is already $2,500. And luckily that is not getting impacted in terms of the pricing. At some point, the fees will increase. And after the notice period in March, we'll have a better idea on the increase, the actual increase.
Yes. Mr. Parvathaneni, H-1B lottery is supposed to start in like 2 months, 3 months, and USCIS is recently stating that the registration fee will be increased to over $200 for each lottery registration from $10. So is that going to come into effect from this March?
So USCIS did announce that the registrations will happen from March 1st to March 17th. And as usual, the actual filings will happen from April 1st to June 30th. So it is 2 parts. First is the electronic registration that happens in March. And then we have the actual filings that will happen from April to end of June. There is a proposal to increase the registration fee, which is $10 to $215. However, the good thing is it is not in effect for this coming fiscal year. So starting March 1st, when the registrations open, people will still pay only $10. The companies will still pay only $10 for each applicant. But this is probably the last year. Starting next year, we will see a huge increase. And as per the current proposal, that increase is $215 for each registration. And again, public do have time until March 6th, 2023 to comment. So more than likely the fees, the final eventual fee increase for next year, we don't know what it would be, but at least there is a proposal out there. And my opinion is this kind of a fee increase is probably also going to deter fraud, because there is this multiple registration issue. And currently it looks like with the $10 fee, there is a tendency for some people to misuse the system because it is so cheap. So in a way, the fee increase might help the system to eradicate fraud. But again, the downside is it's going to be burdensome for the clients, for the employers. And so this is another time where we have to remind ourselves that multiple registrations are prohibited. They are illegal. And one cannot collude and do multiple registrations for the same individual to increase the chances in the lottery. So clearly we will have a lottery again this year, and people have to be cautious. People should understand that even though it is only $10, they should not misuse the system, but make sure the system works like it is designed to work. And any kind of fraud or any kind of misuse of the system should be avoided.
Yes. Mr. Parvathaneni, for the upcoming H-1B filings that are about to start in 2 months, is it just enough to file an H-1B without a project assignment, or should the employer have the actual project to file the H-1B based on the current rules?
So a common question that a lot of people ask is, I as a company, for example, as a consulting company, can I just file for somebody for a H1, even though they don't really have an assignment? They don't really have an end client. Can I just go ahead and file the H1? Can I get an approval? So this is a question that comes a lot during this time, because the H1B lottery is about to start in a few weeks, and the filings are about to start in a few months. So this is a common question. And USCIS is very clear on the rule. The rule is that USCIS does not allow speculative assignments. One cannot just file for a speculative assignment. One cannot bench the employee. Benching of any employee is strictly prohibited. And what that means is the employer, they should have work in the petitioned occupation for the employee on the day of filing. So on the day of filing, there needs to be a legitimate and a bona fide assignment. Without an assignment, without a bona fide offer, one should not do the filing. However, as per the latest memo, the USCIS memo, it is true that one does not need contracts. One do not need the client letters or the vendor letters. So one can do the filing without a client letter or a client contract in general. However, that does not mean that one can file without a bona fide job offer. So an assignment needs to be available. A bona fide need for an employee should be available. Only then one can file a H-1B. And that being said, client letters are not mandatory, vendor letters are not mandatory, but the assignment should be a valid assignment.
Yes. Mr. Parvathaneni, we have heard that recently, last year, U.S. Department of Education has de-recognized a few universities, and F1 students who are studying in those colleges will have an issue with the H-1Bs and the green cards. Can you please elaborate on the specific issue?
Sure. And so this is another thing that happened last year in 2022. And this has a potential to impact some of the students on F1 who might have attended these colleges. So what happened is last year, US Department of Education, they canceled the recognition of one accrediting agency called ACICS. And what that means is any of the colleges that are recognized by this body, ACICS, are now not valid anymore. So the degrees from these universities are not valid anymore because they're not recognized. And what it also means for the upcoming H-1B cap season is one cannot use these degrees for the cap exemption. One has to be very, very cautious if they did graduate from these universities or did go to these universities. And again, this whole issue originally started in 2016, but due to some lawsuits back then, there was a temporary reinstatement. So those universities were still valid, but as of 2022, eventually Department of Education finally came up with this derecognition of that body. So anybody that went to this college, went to these colleges that were recognized by this accrediting agency, have to be very cautious. Be very cautious during the filing of your cap petition. You can still use the degrees from India. So if the bachelor's degree is from India, you can still use it. The master's, if it is from these universities, you cannot use it. So one, just be aware of this issue. So if your university is impacted by ACICS derecognition, be cautious, and you cannot use the degree anymore in US.
Yes. Mr. Chan, looks like we have a caller on our show today. So yes, can you please tell your name and where are you from? And you can discuss the question with Mr. Chan.
Yeah, hi, this is Nishant. I'm coming from California.
Yes, Nishant, you can ask your question.
Yeah. Actually, currently I'm on H2 visa. So can I work as a Uber driver here in California?
Did you say F2 or H2?
H2, it's H2.
So every non-immigrant visa, it is authorized for a particular purpose. So if the non-immigrant visa, the work authorization that you currently have, if it is not valid for that particular case, you cannot use it. And H2 is typically given for seasonal workers, not for something like Uber. So you cannot use that particular classification for an Uber driver. Typically, non-immigrants can work as a Uber driver only if they have EAD card. So for some type of EAD cards, like a green card EAD, H4 EAD. So those are valid authorizations to work as a Uber driver, but not a H2 visa.
So, Mr. Chand, are you saying that different kind of work authorizations are available, like are given to different cities or different states in general?
Not for different states. It depends on the occupation. So, for example, when you talk about H1, H1 can be used only for specialty occupation. So, if you say somebody has a H1 visa to work as a software developer, they can only work as a software developer, not as a different, not in a different occupation. So, every visa, non-immigrant visa that is used for work will have a specific or some kind of a limits on what it can be used and then what kind of employment one can do on it. So one has to be aware on what that visa permits you to do. And H2 visa is a seasonal worker visa. So if somebody is coming as a horse groomer, for example, to groom horses for a particular race, for example, H2 visa is valid for that kind of a work permit. So the summary is every work authorization, it will be for a specific purpose, and we cannot use it for any other purpose other than that particular purpose for which it is intended.
Yeah. Thank you, Nishant, for calling onto our show. So, Mr. Parvathaneni, can we discuss a little about the alcohol-related driving offenses in USA? So, how serious is an alcohol drunk driving offense going to impact one's US visa?
Yeah. So, in general, any arrest for anybody that's on a visa in US, it is considered as a serious issue. So what that means is people have to be very, very cautious with any kind of an arrest record. That being said, if somebody is driving drunk and they get caught, what typically happens is they get arrested. They get arrested and they get taken to a jail. So one has to be very, very cautious. It is not something where somebody gets a ticket and they're let go. If somebody is arrested for driving drunk, they will get arrested and it will stay on the record permanently. So that is one part. And then again, if somebody is a US citizen, the drunk driving, the laws, so the underlying law is the same, but the way it will impact somebody is different because a US citizen does not have the immigration law aspect. And for somebody on a visa, there is also an immigration law aspect in addition to the criminal law aspect. So things are a little bit different. So, in general, what happens is it is typically considered as driving while intoxicated or driving under the influence, depending on what state this offense has happened in, because every state has different rules concerning drunk driving. So this kind of criminal offenses are typically state law. They're not the central government federal law. So it depends on the state where this issue has occurred. That's one part. And also the circumstances underlying this drunk driving, they will also impact what kind of charges can be filed. For example, somebody is caught driving drunk. The penalty is one thing. But if somebody is driving drunk and they hit somebody and they injure somebody, and there are some aggravating factors present, the criminal charges that are attached are different. So depending on the circumstances, the same drunk driving can get somebody into trouble depending on the other circumstances. So, and sometimes it can also be escalated to a crime of moral turpitude. So a crime of moral turpitude could also lead to deportation. So people have to be very, very, very cautious. Driving drunk is a big issue. That being said, what if somebody is caught driving drunk? What will happen? So if somebody is caught driving drunk, more than likely, if it is a first offense and if it is just a driving drunk offense where nobody is injured, more than likely they will not be deported. But there is a certain process. So make sure if at all you are caught driving drunk and you have that in the record, make sure you work with an attorney. Don't just take any plea bargain. There are certain things you have to look from an immigration aspect. So be very, very cautious. And it is not just driving drunk. So there are certain things that can get people into trouble. What if somebody is drunk and walking in public? Depending on the public nuisance, sometimes even intoxicated in the public could get somebody in trouble, even if they're not driving. So be very, very cautious.
And Mr. Chan, sorry for interrupting, but looks like we have another caller. Hi, caller. You can you please say your name and where you're from? You can ask a question.
I'm Rama and I'm from Hyderabad. And my question for Attorney Chand is, do you think it is the right time to send my son for higher education to United States? Especially, we have been seeing in the news a lot of job layoffs, and are there chances of not getting through H-1B because of this?
It's a good question. And I'll tell you what we are seeing in our law firm in terms of the demand for the jobs in the last 1-2 months. I'll start off by telling what happened in 2000. So I came to US in 2000, about 23 years back. In 2000, when I came to US, I came on F1. And everybody in India, so my parents back then, so they said the same thing. They were very worried because back in 2000, the news was 2000, the Y2K, the problem is over. So now that the 2000 Y2K problem is over, the general talk was computer science will not have any demand going into 2001. So a lot of people did say, why are you going for a master's degree? More than likely computer science might not even have a great demand now that Y2K problem has been resolved. That was 2000. And then there was a recession in 2008. In 2008, I heard the same talk. In 2008, in US, there was a housing crisis. And they said the same thing. A lot of layoffs, things are bad. Is it a good idea to even come to US in 2008? We passed that recession. And again, I think we are at a point in 2023 where there is a talk of recession, people are losing jobs. And what is the impact going into the future? This is what we are seeing. We are seeing a lot of layoffs. However, we are also seeing people get jobs pretty quickly. They are laid off, but there is so much of demand for tech employees. So they're able to get a job very quickly. So what we are seeing is probably a part of a cycle. So it's probably in the next 1-2 few months, things might be bad. More than likely, it is going to be a small recession. And there is demand for a lot of tech workers. There is a lot of demand for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics graduates. Things are getting automated. Things everybody needs technology. So my personal opinion is, if somebody is coming here for their master's degree, maybe in the next 1 year, 2 years, there might be layoffs and a temporary slowdown. But long term, more than likely, things will recover. There will be strong demand for technology graduates, and I would not worry about a short impact.
Yes. Thank you so much, Rama, for calling on to our show. Looks like we have another caller too. Hi, caller. You can you please say your name and where you're from and ask the question?
Hello.
Hi. Please ask your question.
Hi, this is Megha here.
Hi, Megha. You can ask a question.
So my question is like, I recently met with an accident and crashed my car to one of the citizens' backyard. I am on H-1B visa. I paid for the necessary repairs and ticket, but the only thing I'm worried, will this affect my green card processing because of a private property damage?
So from based on what you said, more than likely it is a civil it depends on what kind of a ticket you got. So look at the ticket that you received, and if the ticket from the police department, if the ticket amount is less than $500, more than likely you don't have a problem. So look at the ticket and also see if any charges have been filed. If any charges have been filed, it depends on the charges. And more than likely for your kind of a incident, you did not run away from the crime scene. You stayed there and you took care of the incident by making sure your insurance or you handled the damage. If you did those things, you handled the damage, you had proper insurance, there is no criminal aspect, more than likely you should not see any impact for your green card. The only time you might see an issue is if you ran away from the crime scene and they charged you with running away from the crime scene. That is when you'll have a problem. If you stayed back, you took care of the damage, I don't think it'll impact your 485 at all.
Yeah. Thank you so much, caller, for tuning on to our show. Mr. Chand, let's talk a little about something else. We were talking about alcohol issues and offenses. So will future visa applications also get impacted if one has an alcohol offense or driving on their record? So I think this is the question that we just discussed about.
Yeah. So what happens is, if somebody's in US and they get into this driving under influence of alcohol and they get caught by the police, what typically happens is the police will arrest them, and more than likely they'll release them the next day or whenever they get bail bond, and they can stay back in the country. So they can stay back in the country and they can continue to work. But what recently is happening is the consulates, the Department of State, more than likely they will revoke the visa. They will revoke the visa. And it is something called prudential revocation of visa. So even following a drunk driving arrest, even following revocation of a visa, one is still allowed to stay in the country. They can still keep working. However, the problem is when they leave the country. So when they leave the country and go out of the country and they have to come back, what happens is they have to go get a visa stamping. And normally what we are seeing is when they go for visa stamping, they are getting stopped. I mean, not being rejected, they're getting stopped and they're being asked to go to a panel doctor, a panel physician, and they're asked to get a medical tests done. So the panel physician will make sure that somebody is not addicted to alcohol, maybe somebody is not taking drugs. So they'll do this entire medical tests. They will clear them. So once medically they're cleared, more than likely they'll get their visa back. The only thing is it will probably slow down their process. Probably the process is more lengthier, and a single DUI typically will not cause an issue. However, if somebody has multiple DUIs, multiple police arrests for drunk driving, things could be a little bit different. But if it is a single DUI, they get their medical checks done, things are cleared, more than likely they should be fine.
Yes. Mr. Parvathaneni, does having a drunk driving offense cause an issue with the person's ability to become a US citizen later on? And also, you did talk about, how if a person runs away, it can, cause a problem, or if you have not paid a certain ticket bill, it can cause a problem. So can you also talk to the viewers about at what extent, if the accident or if the offense is bad, there's no effect on your US visas, and at what extent will it like actually ruin it?
Sure. So the general process is somebody comes to US, for example, on a H1. Eventually, they get a green card, and eventually down the line, their goal is to become a US citizen. So at the time of US citizen, the main criteria is somebody should be a person of a good moral character. So that is very, very important. Good moral character. So that good moral character is very important. And what is good moral character? So good moral character it's not one thing, it is a number of things. So when you talk about drunk driving offense, a single drunk driving offense might be okay. But again, it directly talks about, does somebody have a good moral character when they're driving drunk, when they're getting drunk and taking their car onto the road where they could have caused somebody a serious issue. So that is where the issue boils down to, the good moral character part. That being said, for example, people are humans. So humans make mistakes. So it is not about one mistake. It is the severity of the mistake and what kind of a mistake is what determines good moral character. A single DUI more than likely might be waived. Multiple drunk driving offenses definitely could lead somebody to argue that somebody is not of good moral character. Same thing with the crimes. People make mistakes. Accidents happen. Somebody is getting into an accident in a car. So somebody went and banged up somebody else's car. Maybe it is their mistake. That's okay. People make mistakes. But again, did they follow the law? Did they do what they're supposed to do? Did they pay their tickets? Did they Did they have insurance? Did they handle the insurance properly? All those things. So as a whole, the issue is if somebody has good moral character or not. And if they do, they will not run into any issue with their citizenship. And again, in general, anybody gets into any kind of a trouble, any kind of a crime, even if the crime is very, very minor, make sure you talk to a criminal attorney, not just an immigration attorney, but a criminal attorney. Better if it is a criminal attorney that deals with criminal law as well as immigration law. And make sure you handle it. That's very important. And again, the bottom line is try not to get into any issues with the criminal law aspects. But if at all, due to some bad luck, something happens, make sure you handle it the right way. There is a way to handle it in a legal fashion. Make sure you handle it in a legal fashion. And not only that, whenever you have to disclose it, make sure you disclose it, because there are times when you have to disclose all these things, either in your green card application or in your citizenship application. Make sure you disclose it. Make sure you handle it in a legal fashion. You do that. I mean, the bottom line is people do make mistakes. But again, if you make a mistake, make sure you're following the legal way to fix the problem.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Parvathaneni, for joining onto our show. We had an amazing show today. Thank you for the callers for tuning in. Thank you for the viewers for tuning in. You're watching Sakshi TV with me, Shivani Raj.
Thank you.